Commander is an interesting format, not just because of its political dynamics or its focus on group fun as well as personal success, but also because sometimes the best deck isn't the best deck. Unlike formats like Standard or Modern, in Commander, you really can build whatever type of deck you want, play the type of cards that you love, be it a theme or a tribe, and still have an honest and fair chance at actually winning. That's a lesson that I learned with one of my first Commander decks ever, a mono-black vampire tribal that I'd like to show you today. I want to say that while indeed this is a budget deck, while indeed this is a flavorful deck, and overall this is a fun deck, it is also a powerful deck, and a deck that can absolutely win. Okay, enough of this. Let's get right down to it. We're in mono-black vampire tribal for Commander, so our Commander obviously has got to be... What was that? What's all this smoke?
Greetings, Professor. Obviously the Commander is none other than myself, Baron Sengir, Lord of Olgrathia, Scourge of the Living, the Nightmare of the Multiverse. There is no vampire commander greater than I.
Sorry, Baron. You might be one of the most flavorful villains in all of Magic's history, but your actual card actually stinks. Out loud.
Don't say that! Why would you even say that? I'm the most fearsome vampire in the multiverse. I don't stink, you stink. Words can hurt, you know. Think before you speak.
Yeah, sorry, but not even in the most casual of casual, built for only fun and flavor Commander decks are you even reasonable to run as a Commander.
What about Castle Sengir? It's a tri-colored land. People run it in all their Grixis decks, don't they?
Yeah, no one runs that. Anywhere.
But it's the most evil place ever!
Oh, don't cry. I'm sorry. Hey, maybe one day Wizards of the Coast will make a new legendary creature card for you, and it'll be at least moderately good.
That's not true, and you know it. They're never going to make a new Baron Sengir card. No one's ever going to play with me in Commander.
Our Commander is actually Anowon the Rune Sage, although as you'll see in a moment, there's a few other options we could use. Anowon is a subtle commander. He forces your opponents to sacrifice a non-vampire creature during your upkeep, and by forcing them to sacrifice, he gets past hexproof and indestructibility. And since your deck is constructed of all vampire creatures, his sack effect won't apply to you. But I also like that by going mono-black, we save a lot on lands. Indeed, my very first Commander deck ever was Anowon, and I literally just put swamps in there. For this refined version I'm showing you today, it still runs 30 swamps, and will make great use of cards like Lashwraith and Tendrils of Agony, which pack a punch based on the number of swamps you have in play. This is a budget-friendly deck, rich in flavor that can fly in under the radar and win. Let's start out with the solid signature vampire cards of this deck. I'm actually going to begin with my absolute favorite vampire, the Vampire Nighthawk. Sometimes nicknamed Batman, this 2/3 flying death touch lifelink for only 3 is always a welcome sight. Bloodline Keeper is another, sadly non-legendary creature. Talk about tribal support. He creates 2/2 black vampire flyers, and once you have 5 vampires in play, transforms permanently into a 5/5 flyer, who boosts other vampires +2/2, and still makes makes the vampire tokens. Not a bad bargain for 4 mana, and he only costs about 4 real-world bucks. Kalitas, Bloodchief of Get, and Drana, Calistria Bloodchief are both legendaries. And if you like one of these Zendikari legendaries above Anowon, by all means swap them out for him as commander. One thing I enjoy greatly about this deck is sometimes mixing it up by changing commanders from Anowon to Kalitas to Drana. Next, a card that I feel very strongly is one of the most amazing yet most overlooked EDH commander creatures, Dark Imposter. Not even costing you $1, he lets you exile target creature for 6 mana, which yes, is a bit costly, but you literally can remove as much as you can afford, turn after turn. Talk about removal. Imposter grows +1/+1 for each creature he exiles, but also gains all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled this way. This vampire assassin gets out of control fast. One of this deck's most noteworthy signature cards indeed. There's not as much tribal interaction for vampires as there is for, say, elves, but there are a few other gems available. Vampire Nocturnus has you play with the top card of your library revealed, and if that card is black, which in a mono-black deck it most certainly is, all of your vampires not only get +2/+1, but also have flying. Bloodlord of Vasagoth has flying and Bloodthirst 3, and gives all vampires you control Bloodthirst 3. Captivating Vampire not only has a +1/+1 effect for all vampires you control, but tapping 5 vampires lets you gain control of target creature. The end. Not until end of turn, or until Captivating Vampire leaves play, you just gain control of that creature. Oh, and that creature also becomes a vampire. Great synergy. Malakir Bloodwitch has flying and protection from white, and also has each opponent lose life equal to the number of vampires you have in play, and then gives you that much life. In multiplayer, that can really net you some life gain. A lot of the vampires we've gone over so far have been a bit costly, but we can still have some early game presence because there's some very noteworthy 2-drops in this deck. Blood Artist is another one of my favorites. Creatures die like crazy in Commander, let alone with all the removal and sacrifice effects this deck brings to the table. Let Blood Artist paint you a pretty picture with their blood. Along those same lines, Calatria Highborn will discourage your opponents from killing off your creatures. Gatekeeper of Malakir is an easy kick for sack effect. Vampire Hexmage is a great fear factor for any opponent with a Planeswalker, or just against any creature that's gotten out of control with +1/+1 counters. And Bloodthrone Vampire can oftentimes finish opponents or even finish games, swinging through for a hit and then pumping up with sacrifice. What other creatures of note does this deck run? Sengir Nosferatu is, hey, actually a legitimately good card. It can avoid being targeted by turning into a bat, a neat kind of blink effect, and then that bat can turn back into the vampire for a reasonable cost. Great card, and a Sengir to boot.
Yay.
Butcher of Malakir is a bit costly, but another source that forces our opponents, each opponent in fact, to sacrifice a creature whenever one of ours dies. Great when you feed half your army to the Bloodthrone Vampire. Cryptghast helps us with the costlier creatures in this deck by adding an extra black mana each time we tap a swamp, of which again the majority of our land base is. Ascendant of Inkar gives all black creatures +1/+1, and also all non-black creatures -1/-1. Great way to cull those pesky white and green 1/1 tokens that often try and overrun us in Commander. Pawn of Ulamog is a fascinating source of mana, giving us juicy Eldrazi drones to pop whenever something of ours dies. Falconwrath Noble is yet another creature that drains 1 life from a player and gains us 1 whenever something dies. These sort of effects really add up. Shadow Alley Denizen helps us punch our creatures through enemy lines, which again pairs well with cards like Bloodflow Connoisseur that can sack our Thrall forces to grow strong. Sangromancer gives us not 1, not 2, but 3 life whenever one of our opponent's creatures dies, whether by our hand or another's, as well as whenever an opponent discards a card. And Ghoul-Draw's Assassin and Miri the Cursed are a couple of great bodies to have in our army. What's left? Feel free to swap these 5 other creatures out for whatever might interest you. There's so many options for this deck. If you have cards you'd prefer to put in, this is the place to look for cuts. But I do like Necropolis Regent, Bloodseeker, Bloodhusk Ritualist, and Vampire Aristocrat to round out our creatures. Oh, and since we're talking flavor, okay, I personally always include a Sengir Vampire. Come on, it's a nostalgia and history win and it deserves a spot. And it's a decent card.
Yay.
Let's talk about the other big black vampire of Magic, Sorin Markov. I'm usually not an enthusiastic includer of planeswalkers in Commander, but I'm going to say that Lord Markov here is a must-have for this deck. His ability to change any opponent's life total to 10 is just delicious, especially in a format where so many players are very reckless in their life loss by having started at 40 life. This also pairs quite nicely with Sorin's Vengeance, a great game ender, especially if you find yourself in a one-on-one match. You can also preemptively cast and kick Blood Tribute, another favorite feast of mine. Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond is our mono-black combo for this deck. You'll need a way to kick off the process with either a loss of life or gaining of life, but once that happens, it's good game. Painful Quandary puts a great pressure on our opponents. This card will either discourage them from casting spells, or it'll cost them life in order to do so, or just force them to discard. Speaking of discard, Mind Sludge will have target player pitch a card for each swamp we control, which again is going to be most of our land. And so for that very same reason, we're going to include Lash Writhe and Tendrils of Corruption. Go swamps! Not to mention the headache Drain Life can give our opponents, taking even more advantage of our mono-black mana base. Dictate of Erebos is the cost-effective Grave Pact. Feel free to pay the big bucks to save a mana, but I'm fine with Dictate for the deck. I also enjoy including Attrition as a way to trade our less important minions for some of our opponent's big bad scaries. Diabolic Tutor is the only tutor I include. Yes, I know Vampiric is on points for flavor, but what a price on that card, and I'm going for a budget brew here. Feel free to spend the cash for everything from Demonic to Vampiric Tutor, and many others in black, but I don't really feel that we need to waste our cash here. We're in mono black, so we have an amazing assortment of removal to choose from. Feast of Blood, Decree of Pain, Tragic Slip, Go for the Throat, Malicious Affliction, Murder, and Doomblade make for a nice package. Just think back to all the added synergy we get from effects that trigger whenever a creature dies. Utility spells include Vampiric Link, Dark Ritual, Distress, Urge to Feed, and Bad Moon. Although these can easily be swapped out for a number of other options you may love and enjoy. What about artifacts? Well, the Baron enjoys a good glug from his Elixir of Immortality, and this deck will enjoy it too. Anowon is always lovely when decked out in Darksteel Plate, and just about any creature in here will enjoy holding the Blade of the Blood Chief. Expedition Map, Caged Sun, and Soul Ring are obvious auto-includes for the boosts they give our mana. And Door of Destinies is here for some old-fashioned tribal beatdown. A little inelegant for fancy pants sophisticated vampires like us, but it does get the job done. While the mana base of course has that lovely 30 swamps, there's a few other lands we want to pepper in. Nothing too expensive or fancy, but the cycling cards like Barren Moor and Polluted Mire are there for if we have any late game flooding. Crypt of Agadeem is a pretty affordable card, and can usually equal a pretty deep mana pool for us to dive into. Bazooka Bog, Ghost Quarter, Arcane Lighthouse are all auto-includes. And I'm a big fan of Rogue's Passage. It's a favorite of mine for letting us get a vampire through to our opponents without being blocked. Again, mana bases can always be upgraded, and if you have the cards already or just the funds, Cabal Coffers and Nykthos Shrine to Nyx go great in monocolored decks like this. But I think you'll find for a budget build, this deck comes out on top under cover of night. I hope this video has been of some help to you. You can help me out by remembering to subscribe, like, share, or just by leaving a comment. Which commander should I build a deck for next? Let me know in the comments below.
What's that? Oh, very well. This video is made possible thanks to the generous donations of the patrons at Patreon, as well as support from viewers such as yourselves. The professor, that insufferable academic, thanks you.